Fowler Staines joining us now on, I guess, the Raptors Music and Food Hotline. We're doing Zoom. We're not necessarily on the phone, but you can find this on our YouTube stream. Also in the podcast for Wednesdays. Neil and I are recording one. So Fowler, our stop. But Fowler, thanks for joining us today, talking a little bit about tickets, game week finally being here. We're actually a little under 48 hours now from, no, 72. It's only Wednesday. For some reason, this is Thursday all week for me. I've been screwed up. But nonetheless, we are closing in on a game week, and appreciate you joining us a little bit today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You took your current role in January. You've been with the foundation, though, for I guess 8 years, something like that, since 2012. And just overall, what's this kind of been like? I mean, we have the last sporting event prior to this, or I guess prior to soccer the other day in March when the baseball team played Princeton. It's been a world of unknown for everybody. That especially goes for fundraising and donations and all these different things. What's just sort of the last 6 months been like for you?
Well, yes, so I took over the end of January, and our staff, I've been with them. A lot of our staff have been here for a while, so knew them well, but in a different capacity now in the leadership role. And so I only had a few weeks for them to become familiar with this change, with different roles. I'm in other meetings. I'm not always here in the office. It just comes with a new set of responsibilities. But it was fun. I think not being totally new to Ole Miss and new to this office, helped a lot when we had to go home. And just a lot of what we did while we were at home was, keeping morale up, keeping our staff engaged. We have a young staff, so they're familiar with technology. That part was pretty seamless, transitioning to remote, but just have to be intentional about checking in with them through calls and Zooms and messaging throughout the day when we're all in different places. But it's been good, and I was as excited as anyone to get back to the office and see people face to face in June. And but it's been good. I think they've received the change in leadership and structure well, and we've filled some recent positions, so we're becoming more intact and ready to go.
What's Zoom been like for you, just trying to do everything remote wise and whatever you're using for those things? Because I'll be honest, I mean, I talk for a living, and I'm much better off in the room with somebody. I've noticed it's been a pretty big transition just to connect with people, to carry on the same type of conversations, to have the back and forth that maybe you would expect. In your different roles, what's that been like, just to be so remote right now instead of so much face to face? Even, for a lot of people in your department, travel and getting in front of donors and different things, it's not necessarily the way it is right now.
It's hard for fundraisers. Our foundation staff, and we're social people, and we're used to seeing donors and fans and having people walk in here and traveling around the state. So that was a huge adjustment for us. I would say, even going into this weekend, we can't go into different parts of the stadium and talk to people like we're used to. And that's hard for our social staff that just likes to converse with people in person. But Zoom has helped. Zoom has been better than a phone call, and now we find ourselves, even if we set up a conference call, it could be on the phone, but we defer to Zoom now instead of over the phone. So it's been good to have.
When everything does get somewhat back to normal, whenever that is, do you anticipate doing some more things remote that you've realized can be just as effective? Or do you think that in your profession, things will go back to as much travel or kind of the way they were prior to this?
I think we'll keep Zoom as just a supplement to what we already do. We'll continue to travel, as far and often as efficiently as we can. And we have donors and fans across the country that Zoom is a great way to connect with those people that we can't get to them, or they don't come to campus as often. So I think, kind of like in the recruiting world and in the fundraising world, we'll see Zoom stay around.
So what is kind of the ticket update? Obviously, again, we're a couple days away, or a few days away from Ole Miss in Florida. You've gotten through all the ticket windows where people could select that they had different spots they could do that for. They've been a little more opened up to the public now. Where do things kind of stand 3 days out?
We have some availability. We have around 2,500 left, as of a little while ago. that we can sell. Our student tickets went on sale on Monday. We have about 1,100 of those left, and we have about 1,400 of regular tickets to sell. So not the outcome we hope to be in at this place in time, but maybe with later games we'll pick that up. And there's a few days left. From now, we're still trying to push the students to get people there, but we do have some inventory available.
Student tickets for what, 2,500 total? Was that right?
That 2,200.
Okay. So about half so far.
That's right.
What is sort of, you guys put a plan in place. It's pretty flexible. You gave people options as far as they could opt in or out. They could get refunds, charitable donations. They could just kind of go game by game, or they had to go game by game with this situation. What sort of went into that? What was some kind of part of the plan to have that particular structure as you guys try to navigate this season when you don't know if the rules will change as the year moves on?
Right. We chose the individual game route to allow for capacities to go up and restrictions to be lifted, and to allow us to get more people in our stadiums later in the season, and also to give more people a chance to get in. We just felt like if we kept it on a season ticket basis at 25%, we would cut a lot of people out. Not everybody comes to every game. Some people like to choose 2 or 3 or 4 games. And so the games that they don't come to, it would allow somebody else to move in. So that's the reason we went to the individual game model. On the pricing, to be totally honest with you, we expected a higher demand in this. We just did. And back in January, we were in a really good place. People are excited about our new coach, just a new view of the program, and we expected a better turnout demand wise. And over the years, when we have adjusted prices around the stadium, we just found that the demand to be inelastic with pricing, and so we felt like it was a good time and opportunity with going to individual game to set it a little bit higher, but nonetheless, that's where we are.
The things I hear are pretty anecdotal. People that have bought tickets have been very happy with the structure, and people who have decided to opt out. Has pricing been the main thing that you've heard for people who did not stay in at this current time for the Florida game?
It's really not. And I know that's out there. And we do hear that from some people, but a lot of people, we're hearing they're just still cautious. They're afraid to come, COVID related.
Sure.
A lot of the people, so when we sent out the survey with options, we had about 25% of our total regular season donors just go ahead and opt out. And we heard COVID. We heard we're just going to, play it safe this year and come back next year. So I think it's just a combination. It's a perfect storm of a lot of different factors.
As it kind of moves on, that's what we've talked about. I think maybe you and I were speaking just on the phone the other day about they have extended restaurants to 75%. They've done some different things. Is there the optimism that could expand at least the suites as the season moves on? Because that, while it's been a different executive order, it has kind of followed the restaurant protocol on what the rule has been there.
That's right. He set the suites at 50% based on where restaurants were done. And we hope that they do increase. We don't know for certain, but maybe after we get one home game under our belt and state does the same, then maybe we'll see some restrictions lifted and capacities increased going forward.
What's been your premium seating kind of sales demand versus the more, I guess, general season ticket holder?
So our highest price areas in our stadium are the ones that are sold out for the most part. In all of our suites, we have about 85 suites. We have one open. Our clubs, our Rebel Club is sold out, our Field Club is sold out, and our South Club has just a few available, less than 30 available.
Go ahead, sorry, finish up.
No, I was just going to say, and our 50-yard line seats, those are gone. So it's really the lower priced areas of the stadium that are still open.
But then, I guess it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, COVID plays a huge role in this. For anybody who is worried about pricing, that's potentially the people necessarily don't have as much flexibility for that though. So I guess in my head that does make somewhat of sense.
That's right.
Yeah. As it moves on, and you have to. I know you look forward. I know you can't really look backwards, but I mean, we spent days on the podcast right after Lane Kiffin was hired, talking about season ticket sales and just the overall excitement of his hire. There has to be a time where you almost have to pinch yourself to come back to reality, because I do. I think the pandemic changed everything, because it's economics, it's safety, it's so many different reasons why they pick. But I mean, we'd have podcast days where we talked about, hey, there might be 40,000 season tickets sold. There might be records here, just the way everybody was so pumped up after that hire was made that it completely shifted for you guys there in 60 days. Really.
It did. I mean, we were in January and February when we were working on budget for this fiscal year and projections. We didn't go up as high as we were several years ago, 2016, that area, but we went up a good bit projection wise, and brought it down in April, brought it further down June and July. But hopefully after we get through this season and we go through that process again in the spring and start renewing for 21, hopefully we can kind of bring that back and get back up again.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. I mean, with a lot of people simply opting out for health reasons, there's no reason necessarily to think that there's a season over season drop, right? I mean, it does appear to at least somewhat be an anomaly.
Right. Out of the people that opted out, I would say about half of them pushed forward to 21, push their funds forward, which tells us that they intend to come back.
Where is just kind of curious, so where is kind of basketball tickets right now, and sort of the unknown with that, because being an indoor sport, there's a little bit, like we set a start date, but at this point it does seem to be a little more up in the air on exactly what that looks like inside the arena.
Right. So we've sold 3,000 basketball tickets, which is around 1,000 down year to date, 2,100 down from total. I think a lot of people are just waiting to see how many people we can get in there and what that's going to look like before they pull the trigger and buy. Football, a lot of people buy in the spring. They go ahead and do that early. And basketball, I think we're going to see up until the end. So around 2,100 down total, which is around $800,000 down in revenue year to date.
Yeah, one football thing, and I know it's not necessarily your area, but what do you expect the stadium, just kind of the game day, just the entire thing to look like on Saturday?
It's hard to imagine. I think it's going to be really bare. I do. I hope it's not, because what we have done, and I know not all schools have done this, is that we have spaced everyone out, but given seat locations to hopefully avoid people all going down and congregating in one place. And you see on TV sometimes everybody will go down to the lower sections. We don't want that to happen because it makes the rest of the stadium look bare, and then they're not following social distancing protocols. So hopefully if people stay in the locations that are given, it'll give some more color to the stands. And it's just a different world we're in. I mean, walking through concourses and mask on, everybody will be distanced. It's kind of, you got to pinch yourself. Like this is what we're doing now.
How big do you think of an impact that no tailgating has on some of this? Because it's not less than an event. I mean, you look around, or maybe not even just tailgating, but everything externally or indirectly from just the stadium experience. Because you look around and restaurants are having a hard time even getting to that 75% capacity because of the 6 feet between tables. There aren't as many places to eat in town. People aren't out as much. You mentioned tailgating. It's just a little less than an event right now. Have you sensed that maybe that plays a role too? Because just fewer people are wanting to come into town because they can't do their normal game day weekend as they were?
I think it has a huge impact on it. It's a big factor. I mean, so many people, like you said, make a weekend out of it. And they come to see their friends and spend those hours before the game, with people that they don't get to see very often. And so I think that drove a lot of people's decision. And we've even said that when we get to next spring and we start marketing for 21, a big part of it can hopefully be, look, the Grove is back, we're back, bring your whole weekend back, kind of thing.
From a budget standpoint, the 25% capacity where you guys are at right now, I mean, not necessarily specifics, but just in general, what's the hit? Where are things from a fiscal standpoint?
So foundation wise, we are down 9 million in budget, which is hard on our budget, and it's tough. A lot of that is football. A huge part of our budget is from football seating donations, and the same thing on the department side with tickets too. Um, so I mean, it's real. We are down 7, 8 figures, and it's hard to get back in other sports, and we just do the best we can, and we have sources to pull from. We have a small amount of reserves. We have some borrowing capacity. We're doing everything we can to be fiscally responsible and get through this rough time, but it's tough right now.
What is the typical foundation budget, if you will? Like what kind of a percentage are we looking at there?
It's about 30 million
Okay.
typically, and we're down to 21 million budgeted for this year.
In layman's terms, we always hear the athletic budget side in general. We hear the 112 million, 105 million, 119 million. I guess what is that in relation to the foundation side? How do those coexist with one another, if you will?
So our 30 is part of that.
Right.
And we look at everything to the extent we can collectively. We set our separate budgets, but then for reporting purposes, and we look at it holistically, and we help each other out in every area that we can, from different revenue streams and funds on hand and expenses paid from different resources and pools. So we combine that. So when we report 112 and 110, I mean, that includes our foundation.
What's sort of the message right now? I mean, to whether it be donors, fans in general, what is sort of the overlying thing that the foundation or the athletic department in general is trying to communicate to people?
I think more than anything, just stay with us. If you can't get here in person, we want to continue to communicate with you, keep you engaged, to bring you back as soon as we can do that, as soon as you can come back. And every little bit helps. Just give what you can. We launched the For the Rebs campaign that really we just wanted to put an avenue out there for people to give. I mean, no gift is too small. We wanted to put it out there for people that were not going to come to football games this year, but we didn't want to move their money forward or refund, but just an avenue for them to convert it to charitable. But then also just for outright gifts for people that had were able to do that, could give a little bit here and there. So I would say that just to stay with us, and when you can, where you can, give, because it's all impactful. It makes a difference, and we don't want to let any time go by without thanking people and making them understand that we're really, really grateful for their commitments.
This may be more of a Keith question, so just feel free to defer it and I'll ask him. But I know operating budget wise, a lot of things have to happen. You have to make sure those things stay. But from a 1 year standpoint, is this as much as anything, and just in my opinion, so it makes sense, more of the big expansion projects, the capital campaign? Is that what's kind of put on the back burner a little more with the current situation? Because I would assume that excess is where you get into a lot of those type of things from facilities and expansion standpoint.
That's right. We have put facility projects on hold to the extent that we can. The one that was about to kick off before we went home and shut down in March was our track facility. Mm-hmm. And so when we get through this and we're able to start those types of things again, that'll be the first to get back and going more than likely. But yeah, right now we've got to focus on student athletes day to day, trying to not let them see the effects to the extent possible. We want them to continue to get their meals and their day-to-day just benefits and support that they're used to getting, to not let them feel this effect.
And that has happened, right? There's no athletic cuts as far as what they actually see, right?
That's right. That's right.
I guess really kind of last thing is this moves forward. I mean, is there It's from a pricing standpoint. You expect those to be cemented the rest of the season, even if the capacity expands, or is there some elasticity to try to change some of those things if necessary?
We have discussed a little bit, not in a lot of detail yet, but we have discussed, being flexible for the rest of the season as we need to be. So, I imagine after this game, we'll decide what we'll do going forward. But um, it's not out of the question. We're just trying to consider all sides and all parts and the effect that it could have.
OleMissTix.com is the place where people can purchase if they so wish. Again, some things available in multiple price points there. So Fowler, thanks. Hopefully we have a good day on Saturday, and let's do it again.
Thank you, Chase. Thanks for having me.